Yeah, it's the courthouse.
It's cool.
Yeah, it is. All right, so our first stop is here in Buena Vista, Georgia, not too far from where I grew up. And there's a couple things I want to show you here. First thing we're going to look at is the courthouse over here. So Buena Vista is laid out like most, or the majority of southern towns are, old southern towns, with a courthouse and then buildings making a square around the courthouse. I forgot what that layout's called. But Buena Vista is a good example of that, and it's commonly seen in little southern towns. So let's take a look at this courthouse. As far as I know, this courthouse is still in use. We got a monument here. Thaddeus Oliver, poet and Confederate hero, author of the great poem All Quiet Along the Potomac Tonight, 1826 to 1864. I'm going to assume he's not actually buried here. That's just a marker for him. I don't know if he's from Buena Vista. Don't know anything about him. But here's the old courthouse. It's pretty cool. Wish I knew the terminology for the architecture, but I don't. But it is cool to see an old courthouse in good condition still standing like this. And as I pan the camera around, you can see the town and how it's laid out. Alright, so that's for the other stuff I wanted to show you. This is stuff that I remember as a kid. Of course, growing up near here, I would see it. Because this was town, kind of, sort of, from where I grew up. You'd come here, there was a grocery store right down there where you can see that red awning. Not the first one, but the second one. And I think that grocery store is actually closed down now and something else. But when we would come up to Buena Vista to go to the grocery store, I'd see these places and they would always fascinate me. And this one's the first one. It looks like it's a apparel store, clothing store now, but it's clearly an old gas station. There's probably the sign for the gas station, and it's probably had above ground visible pumps. But I don't know a date on the station. I would guess, 1920s maybe. It's pretty old design, but it's a neat place. And we're gonna look over here. This is another thing I love about little southern towns. And you see it in almost all of them, is the artwork on the side of the buildings. This one for Coca-Cola, which is also extremely common. And then up there is the sign for a furniture store. Also was a funeral directors, which is kind of interesting. That sign was actually recently repainted by a friend of mine, Ralph Frank. But I love that Coke sign. So this little square of buildings is what actually interested me the most and what I was intending to show you out here. I love the entrances to the buildings. And they all look like they're being used out here, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of southern towns you come to, everything's just closed up. Of course, it's Sunday and everything's closed. So this is interesting. The snow wall. From the very early 1900s until now, local citizens have used this wall as a place to record informally and in graffiti fashion the rare occasions of snowfall in Buena Vista. The snow wall suffered some damage a couple years ago, but if you look carefully, you can still see some of the very early dates, initials, and notes. The snow wall is one piece of evidence of the very vibrant social scene that existed here on the Buena Vista Courthouse Square from the very earliest days of settlement until the 1970s, when economic, agricultural, and social changes, much larger than Buena Vista, brought about a sharp decline in local business. Now with the construction of new schools and the restoration of Pasaquan, there's renewed excitement in Buena Vista, and a bright, if not always snowy, future lies ahead. So let's see. I'm looking pretty close, but I don't see any dates or initials on there. Oh wait, there we go. I see it. I didn't look up high enough. That's pretty cool. Snowy Saturday night, September 10th, 1934. Sunday, July 26th, 1922. So that's pretty cool. I like that. That's the first time I've seen that. Actually, it's the first time I've really walked down here. Now, this was the place that I was really wanting to show you. This is an old drugstore down here. How you doing? This old drugstore down here. And it's still, well, it's a music shop now. It's still got the Marion Rexall drugs and Coca-Cola. So there's probably drugstore and soda fountain. It's pretty cool. It's a shame they're closed. I'd love to go inside. It's a music shop now, as you can see. Look through the window a little bit. If you can kind of see. Maybe that didn't work so well with the stand that this GoPro's on. But we'll take a look over on the other side, where the other cool thing is the old sign for the drugstore. Alright, so there's probably plenty more I could show you in Buena Vista. There's another old gas station out the window. It's newer though. There's probably plenty more I could show you out here in Buena Vista, but that's not what this video is. We're just gonna stop for the little roadside attractions and things that catch my eye and head on down the road. So we'll see you at the next stop. Alright, so we're coming up on our next stop here. And this is a little town. You can barely call it a town anymore. And there's something particular I want to show you, but I also want to show you coming into town. And this old house right here, you can slow down. Watch that house fall down through the years. I remember when it was standing. Big old beautiful southern house that's gone completely decayed. I don't know if you saw much of it on the video that quick, but that was it. But right here is the next thing that we're going to take a look at. Alright, so we're in Tazewell, Georgia, listening to that sodium vapor light up there squawk. We're in Tazewell, Georgia. I don't remember if I said that a minute ago. And we're about to take a look at this old courthouse. So the sign says that this courthouse was built in 1848 at a cost of $1,637. It replaced one built in 1839 and burned in 1845. The courthouse now in use was built at Buena Vista, then Pea Ridge, in 1850 when the county seat was moved. The first courthouse in Marion County was at Horry. Members of Marion Lodge number 14, established in 1840, have met in this old courthouse since its construction. Prior to this, they met in the courthouse that was burned. This courthouse now marks the exact center of the new city limits established by incorporation in 1953. Now the sign was a little confusing. Maybe reading it, maybe if I listen to myself read it, I'll understand it better. But the sign is from 1954. So this town is now unincorporated. And I guess that the incorporation was around here, and now it is not. So we'll take a look at this courthouse here. It's now a Masonic Lodge. And this is a really cool building. I like this one a lot. You can see the way that the porch is kind of in bad shape there, falling in. Let's step onto the porch. Hopefully it doesn't fall down on us. Really cool old building. There's some carving in the wall here. Wonder if that was done recently or if it was done long ago. There's no telling. This is another building that I used to pass by as a kid, and I always thought it was really cool. And it's funny with all these places that I've seen as a kid, and I've never really thought that much about filming or even taking pictures of. And it's funny that the stuff that we're used to seeing we don't think twice about until it's gone. And that's something that I've come to realize now, how important it is to film something, because things disappear very quickly. It's kind of interesting here. Look at these old stumps. I don't know if they were originally trees that grew there or if they were some kind of fence. It's kind of weird, they're just in this little line right here. And also check out the foundation here, that's really cool. Love those old rocks. And we'll take a quick peek on the underside of the building. You know, I always like to do that. See a couple broken bottles. Because way back when people would throw away their trash, they would actually throw it under the buildings. The old shuttered windows, I guess that's what you'd call them. And then the back side of the courthouse. We've got this little concrete piece right here, which has a date in it of 8/23/34. Some interesting pieces of glass in here, some burned glass. But we won't spend much more time here. We're gonna head on down to the next place I want to show you. Everybody waves out here in the country. Something to forget about living in town. Let's take a look under the porch. You can see all the old antlion beds right there. And more of the old foundation. Pretty cool stuff. Alright, we're going to get back on the road and we're going to check out something else. Alright, so we're deep in the heart of the part of Georgia where I grew up, which is the beach. Can't you tell by all the sand? Oh wait, it's not the beach at all. Okay, really we're in the coastal plain of Georgia, which explains all the sand. Now, we're several hundred miles away from any ocean, so how is it the coastal plain? Well, 1 billion years ago, this was all ocean, and now all that's left is sand. The land out here is flat, and you can see for miles, except for the pine trees. Around 200 years ago, this land was full of longleaf pine trees. However, they have an extremely slow growth rate, so due to heavy logging and the slow growth rate, the numbers were almost decimated. Today you see other type of pine trees planted to replace them, pine trees that grow quickly. The landscape out here has been forever changed, partially due to bad farming practices and also due to heavy logging. Also, a lack of burning has decimated the longleaf pine population, because when the land isn't burned, bushes like this, which is some kind of oak tree, are allowed to grow. And they take up the space for the slow-growing pine trees. So as you can see here, the land that once would have been filled with longleaf pines is now filled with oak trees and other types of trees struggling to survive. And there's one more thing you'll find an abundance of out here. It's not those pretty little flowers. Here's what you'll find an overabundance of out here. Prickly pear cactus. And I tell you what, from personal experience, you don't want to get one of these thorns in your feet. Although I don't see any thorns on this particular cactus. I can also tell you from experience, they will very easily pierce a thin-soled shoe. Alright, we're going to get on to our next target, our next destination, and our final destination. So we'll see you in a minute. Alright, and this brings us to our next stop. And I think I said it was going to be our final stop, but this was actually something that I had forgotten about, but wanted to film when I remembered it. So we've got one more stop after this. Let's get out and I'll tell you about it. So we're in Malta, Georgia now, and this is the old Malta Schoolhouse. It was built in 1936. And I'm not sure when it stopped being used, but it has been, in somewhat recent history, renovated, and now I think it's used for little community meetings. But it's a cool old building that was once in bad shape, and unlike many, was saved. And that cat nearly gave me a heart attack. Let's walk up for a closer look. So you can see inside, if you can at all, tables set up for community meetings. Usually I have a different mount so I can put my camera right up to the window so we can see inside easier, but not today. It's more field stones going into the entrance of the store, of the school rather. I like field stones. Alright, so this was definitely a place I wanted to film and document for y'all. It's on the National Register for Historic Places, and there was some great deal about restoring it not that long ago, but I don't know any of the details of that. But it once served as schoolhouse for the communities around here, and this community of Malta, which used to be much, much bigger than it is. So now we're going to hop back in the car and head to our final destination. It's one of my favorite places from out here growing up. Can't wait to show it to you. So this is our final destination here, and you may be wondering, why am I showing you a creek? But in this area there's not that much water around like this. So this creek, known as Cold Creek, is absolutely crystal clear, spring fed, and the sandy bottom keeps it clear too. And it's also the local swimming hole. And it's a place where I would come many times as a kid and hang out and enjoy the ice cold spring water flowing through. Yeah, that's the most important part, is so many people don't. They just trash the land.
Glass is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Glass. You know, you got young, you don't want, I don't want my kids going around glass. I got my kids when I was little.
Exactly.
You know, it's crazy.
Did you have fun, Julia? Did you have fun? Yeah, I remember coming down here and looking for crawfish.
There's 5 or 6 right here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look right here. Hold on. See right there? There's one, there's one, there's one. They're all up under the bank right there. As a matter of fact, they're all the way down this creek. Everywhere. See right there?
Yeah, sure
See
do.
right there? There's one.
There's a baby. There's a little
There's
one.
right here. Oh, there's one right there.
Oh,
There's one right there. See him right there?
Yep.
Right there. There's one right there. They're everywhere. I love it, though.
See?
Katie eats them.
What if they knew something?
Alright, well that's going to conclude our adventuring for today. I sure hope you enjoyed seeing all this stuff today, and especially that creek. That was my favorite part. As you can see, there were people down there, and it's pretty active with people around here. Come out there, like I said, it's a local swimming hole, and the water is just ice cold even on the hottest days. It's fed by a spring. I'm not sure where the head of it is, but it's just a beautiful area, and that was cool. It's always nice to meet good people out there just enjoying nature. Alright, well, we'll see you on the next adventure. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.